everything that I had believed about how I needed to show up, the roles I was expected to take on, the load I was expected to carry, how I was supposed to be peaceful and calm and agreeable and flexible and in charge of everybody else's comfort and putting mine last on the list, it just kind of all hit me. And I was like, that's not happening anymore.
Welcome to A Beautiful Fix. I'm Tracy Hill. Each week we'll dive into the latest thought gem, recharging and reconnecting with what lights you up and makes you feel alive. Let's discover your next beautiful fix together. Hey, real quick before we dive in, you're powerful. And sometimes you just need someone to remind you what's already in you. That's what human design does. It's the difference between guessing and knowing. So you can stop searching outside yourself and start trusting the answers within. I promise you they're there. Grab your free chart at abeautifulfix.com, and when you're ready to go deeper, book a one-to-one session with me. All right, let's get into the episode. Have you ever reached a point in your life where you realize the rules you've been living by just no longer fit? Maybe they came from your family, maybe from society. Maybe they were rules you wrote for yourself years ago that just no longer make sense. Today's guest is Angela Burk, founder of Real Girl's Guide to Midlife and author of the book by the same name. Angela spent years doing what many of us do, building a career, raising a family, checking all the boxes. But as 50 approached, she found herself feeling something she hadn't expected. Fierce, determined, ready to burn the old rule book she'd written for herself and make space for what she truly wanted. Through her writing, her community, and her book, Angela's helping women embrace midlife as a powerful new beginning. Angela, welcome to A Beautiful Fix.
Well, I just feel like, first of all, thank you. And I just feel like I need you to introduce me every day. When I just get up, I just need that to be playing.
Just call me.
I will. We'll just do a
you.
little. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm so excited. And before we jump in, I just want to encourage everyone to stick around until the end because Angela has so graciously said that she's going to give away 3 copies of Real Girl's Guide to Midlife to 3 listeners. I was prepared for 1. And then we're going to share how to enter before we wrap up. So please stick around. But Angela, let's start with this line from your bio. So the whole point of as 50 approached, I started feeling fierce, determined, ready to burn the old rule book. When I read that, I just laughed because I was such a rule follower. I mean, I was the good girl. I did what I was supposed to do. I was always where I was supposed to be. And when I left my corporate career, our backgrounds are so similar. But when I left my corporate career, suddenly, back in 2020, just kind of leapt. It was like I took that rule book and just stomped it, burned it, threw it out. It was, so reading that was, so tell me about your version of this.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And for me, it was kind of a culmination of things. I think that, first of all, I write about midlife. That's the name of the book. And the reality is midlife is not one magic decade, right? It is just a period of transition. So if I go back and look at the periods of transitions that were the most heavy for me, my 40s were a big one. I took a really big career leap in my 40s. I left a very financially stable and successful job to join a pre-IPO startup. So in the tech world, I made the difficult decision to divorce. I was, trying to embark on this life as a single mom while making sure that my 3 boys, their worlds weren't completely devastated, right? And that energy took a lot out of me. I didn't realize as I approached 47 how close I was to entering menopause. At the end of my 47th year, I became postmenopausal officially, but I didn't know what was happening to me in that lead up. And then through all of this, I additionally met a man who lives in Australia. I live in California, so just let that marinate for a second. And all of these things were sort of hitting me at once. And then, to layer on top of that, there were not tragic, but appearance changes, right? As we get older, our appearance changes. My tolerance for things was changing. The fact that I found myself almost like I would watch myself in meetings or, with my family, or behaving in a way that I had spent my whole life doing. And it was almost like I was having these out of body experiences because I was watching myself going, who is she? And the best parts of me that I loved about myself were gone. And I was like, okay, something's got to change here. So it was a series of awakenings, a series of realizations, some of which I wasn't prepared for, some of which, I did not see coming, some of which I architected. And it culminated into, hey, there's no one right way to do it, any of this. And also, I am not alone. All the feelings that I was feeling, like, oh my gosh, like, what's happening to my hormones and what's happening here and what's happening there? None of my friends were talking about it. So I was like, okay, I must be failing at all of this. So I'm the girl that doesn't know how to do it. And it was like all of these things coming together where I realized everything that I had believed about how I needed to show up, the roles I was expected to take on, the load I was expected to carry, how I was supposed to be peaceful and calm and agreeable and flexible and, in charge of everybody else's comfort and putting mine on the last on the list. It just kind of all hit me. And I was like, that's not happening anymore. I'm not doing that.
So Angela, that was so much. That's a lot. And first of all, during your introduction, I forgot to mention that in human design, you're a manifesting generator. I don't know if you're familiar with human design.
I'm not, but I took the test and I was like, I need to know everything about myself.
Yes, and we'll jump into it a little bit, but just manifesting generators, they pivot, and it's their gift. It's their gift, though. They are the people that society has conditioned them to believe that there's something wrong. Stick to one lane. Can you just do one thing? Niche down. Can you finish what you start, the whole thing? But literally, they're meant to just to know themselves so well that they know when something's complete. To the outside world, it might look like, no, it's complete when you've finished it. But for you, your body, if you learn to listen to your body, tells you we've got what we needed out of it. It's time to go to this next thing. And it just keeps leading to different things. But we'll get into that later. But just hearing this is so manifesting. But divorce, I was taking notes. Divorce, menopause, left a career, started a new one with an IPO and a startup. So there's no guarantee to that. The appearances changing. It was just so much. And you mentioned that, what were some of the surprises? Like you mentioned that there were things that you kind of discovered that were surprising. Can you tell us about some of those?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I discovered was, so I'll take the example of just my marriage and the family that I had built, right? I was married for a long time. I was married for 15 years. And I so wanted that intact family for my boys. And as I built the book, just a quick aside, one of the things I did for Real Girls Guide is I interviewed a bunch of women who shared their stories across a variety of different topics. Plus I layered on expert advice. And so what I'm about to share with you is not something that's unique to me. It was a red thread that emerged as I was writing the book. But if I take my family, I spent, a lot of energy and effort keeping that family intact because I thought that that's what I needed to give my boys. I thought that my job in bringing these 3 boys into the world was giving them an intact family. And what I didn't realize was I was doing it at a cost, and that cost was a happy Angela. And it wasn't that I was, dramatically and tragically unhappy, but the very best parts of me were almost, disappearing. And so I got to this place where, what is it that I want my kids to see? What is it that they truly deserve, right? Do they deserve this intact family that doesn't actually function? Or do they deserve to see a mother and a role model of somebody who is radiating happiness and peace? Not all the time, because I'm not perfect, but who's radiating happiness and peace and who isn't afraid to put herself first on the list. That's what I want for my boys. I want them to enter whatever their adulthood looks like, and whatever relationships they choose, to have that mindset, not like, oh, I'm going to be the ultimate sacrificer here. Everybody has to be. But that was a big one for me. That whole story, that script that my children deserved an intact family more than fill in the blank. That was wrong. And it was just wrong. And I had to break that.
Angela, I have been saying this is the year where I'm bringing selfish back.
Oh, I love that. Bringing selfish back.
I am reclaiming that word because of everything you just said. I think when it comes to women, especially women in midlife, we've spent our lives doing for everyone else and feeling like that's what makes a good mom, you know? But it's beautiful that you saw in your sons, what am I really truly showing them? Is this version of what I thought was perfect, really it? Or is it a happy Angela? Because when you're happy, then they're happy. They get to see mom happy. You show up differently.
I do.
It's the most beautiful thing we can do.
It is. And I think, one of the topics I write about in Real Girls Guide is parenting. And I'm going through transitions of parenting little kids and adults. And it's hard. I'm going to admit, I don't have a playbook for how to parent adults. But what I realized was even over the last, call it sort of 4 or 5 years, the version of me that my children are experiencing is a brand new version. This version is relaxed. I'm happy. I don't apologize. I don't ask for permission. I don't shy away from saying yes or no. This version started playing the drums 6 months ago. Why? Because I wanted to. I didn't care. That's what I wanted to do. So that's what I did. This version of me wrote a book, right? In my mid-50s, having never written a book. This version of me has just changed the way I experience myself in life. And they're seeing that for the first time. And it turns out they kind of like that mom.
Yes.
Go figure.
How old are your boys?
They're 23, 20, and 15.
Oh.
Yeah. No, so they like this version of me. And I like it. More importantly, I like this version of me.
There you go. Wow, that is amazing. I have 4 boys, so that's what I'm saying. The parallels are just insane. So have they actually said to you, have they noticed things that they've told you, like, Mama, I noticed now this, or is there anything particular, or is it just in general that just you feels differently to them?
They've actually said something. So when I wrote the Real Girls Guide, I started writing that in April of 25. I also started a Substack. And that was really, I had no master plan here. I just wanted to write this book. I had this book idea 20 years ago. It got buried into a red folder, literally and figuratively buried. And I found it when I retired in late 2024. So I think that the thing that they've said to me is just the fact, I always tell my kids, I have a little, all these mantras, right? One of them is, if you're going to take a risk in life, always bet on yourself. And so the fact that I found this folder, I opened it, I decided I was going to write this book, and I did it. And so they kind of play that back to me well, it looks like you took a risk on yourself. You kind of bet on yourself now, didn't you? So that's one example, which, makes me feel really proud, because that's what I want them to see. I want them to see that, if you've got something that you believe in, just do it. Who cares? Just do it. So that's one thing. And the other interesting thing, I wrote about this in my Substack last week, but so, I think I spent a lot of my time, and again, threads through the book and through these amazing women who shared their stories, where, there's kind of an inventory of things that I either wish I would have said or wish I would have said sooner that I didn't. And one of the things that I think I spent a lot of my time doing was apologizing, and I was always the one who would rush to apologize, because I felt like my job in life was, I have to move on the quickest. I have to smooth it. I have to fix it. And even if I wasn't ready to apologize or ready to receive an apology, I had to motor through it, because I wanted things to just be smooth and I wanted to get on the other side. And what I've realized at this stage is not everything deserves my forgiveness. And I'm okay with that, number one. And number two, I was talking to my older son about this. And he reminded me of a time when he was probably 5. And he and my middle son were fighting. And I said to my older son, you need to apologize to your brother. And he looked at me and he said, I'm not ready. And I was like, I remember the day in the house. This 5-year-old is telling me he's not ready to apologize. And I was like baffled. What am I supposed to do with that? And, as I was writing this blog, I was telling him about it, and he was relaying this memory because he brought the memory up. I had totally forgotten about it. And I said, what, why did you think about that now? And how do you process that now? He's like, well, I'm really glad you didn't make me apologize because I wasn't ready. And that's what he took away. So this thing that happened when he was 5 that I'd forgotten about, even when I was writing this article, I had forgotten about until I happened to talk to him. So that's what I'm also seeing. I'm seeing the experience that maybe I either catastrophized about how I showed up for my boys or how I didn't, or completely forgot about. And it's sticking with them, or they have a different perception of it. And that makes me feel, some of the perceptions aren't great. Like I know during my rage years, as I call them, I didn't show up great for my kids, and they remember some of that stuff, and I remember it. But also, like I wrote about something else too, about a time where I was in the middle of like all this hormonal stuff. I was, single mom, all the things. I driven my kids out to dinner, and it was a horrible dinner. We get to the restaurant, one kid's whining, the other kid's like, I don't want to be here. And I looked at them, we hadn't even ordered. I said, we're getting in the car, we're going home. We went home, I went right to my room, shut the door, and I told the boys, there's cereal. And that was it. And that was that was a moment where I was like, I can't do it. I don't know what to do here. I just have to isolate. And when I was writing about this in the book, I was talking to my middle son about it. And he's like, I actually kind of don't remember that. I just remember that to get to the restaurant, you drove us to our favorite beach.
Oh.
And I was like, you don't remember the havoc that I created after the aftermath? He's like, no, I remember the drive to the beach. And I was like, okay.
That's so powerful, because imagine if you were sitting around beating yourself up, just reliving that over and over again, that I did that and I told them there was cereal and they probably hate me, and then making up this whole story.
Which we do.
I just remember, yes, that's what
Which
we do.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Tell us about this book. I was reading some of your reviews on Amazon. Amazing. Yeah. What do you think it is that is resonating so strongly with women?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things, right? If you look at kind of the bigger backdrop, there's so much more now being talked about in terms of menopause, perimenopause, midlife, all the things. And there's this layer of just honest, unpolished, unvarnished truths. So I think that's one thing. I think that, as I previewed my very fancy podcast interview outfit to you before we started, I think I come to a lot of these subjects with a lot of vulnerability, probably maybe a little too much honesty and bluntness. But that's what I do because I felt so alone in a lot of moments and a lot of things that were happening to me. And also to your point, I was looking around, right? And what I was seeing was, everybody who seemed to be perfect and shiny and polished. And I was like, okay, well, I don't measure up there. So I'm an even bigger failure. So that was one. And then I think the second truth that I saw was, I was seeing a lot of celebrities talk about all of these subjects. And I was like, that's great. Like, I love that Halle Berry and Naomi Watts are talking about these things and Burk, whatever, but I'm not them. Like, I'm just trying to figure it out and stumbling along the way. So I think that there's an element of that. And I think the other element is with the Real Girls Guide and the Substack and all the things that I've tried to build, it is this community of women who see themselves in the rawness and the realness of some of the stories. And there's like a comfort in numbers. And I think that there's something about the law of attraction, right? Because what I noticed was as I started writing this book and I was, the Substack, and I was talking to more people about what I was doing, more people were coming to me. And then the conversations that maybe started, small, started to grow. And then they started to get louder. And then we were talking about these, subjects that were super taboo. And then it was happening. And it just was like, all of a sudden, this thing kind of blew up. And I was like, okay, I'm onto something here. Something is happening. And so I think it was just a combination of those things.
I think a big part of it, you mentioned it, is you are so authentic, you are so real. And I think that is so refreshing, especially when we're going through this time in our life where, as you mentioned, so few are talking about it. Everyone is acting like life is perfect and great. And you're looking around. I remember that feeling. I remember being in corporate with this great job and feeling the way I felt and I would literally look at my coworkers, just trying to see if I could read their energy. Like, are you feeling this? I felt so alone. And to have someone, I loved how you showed up for this interview. You were cracking me up before we got on. Like, the world needs more of that now. Were you always this way, Angela? Were you always this authentic, this real? Or is this something that you've come into?
I think I've come into it. Like, I think that, I've always been an honest person, and I've always said, kind of, what you see is what you get. But I do think that I had to adapt a lot, right? If I think about the roles that I adapted to in my family, at work, in my marriage, I became, I morphed into what was expected of me in those roles. And when I take a step back, right? And again, my 40s were probably my most change-filled decade. Approaching my 50s, things shifted, and they're continuing to shift. I contorted myself so much to be the kind of person, and fit the mold that I believed was expected of me across all of these different dimensions. And it's exhausting. It's no wonder why I was so tired. It's no wonder why people would see me and go, wow, you look tired. Well, I wonder why. I wonder why I'm tired. So I think that on the one hand, I definitely have always been a very much an open book. Kind of what you see is what you get. I try to show up at work and with my family and my children and my friends in the same way. I don't have enough energy to sort of adapt to that degree. But I think the roles and the way I had to show up in some of these roles, I felt I had to be different. I had to adapt, and it was hard because in the process, I just lost parts of myself, for sure.
So for women that are listening to this thinking, oh my gosh, she sounds so much like me, what would you say to them if they're just listening to this in that place where they're just feeling a little bit lost, disconnected? What would you recommend?
So a couple things. One of the things that I do in the Real Girls Guide is, again, it's not only my story, but it's other women's stories. There's a lot of expert opinions that I wanted to thread through. But at the end of the book, there's kind of a set of exercises, a little manifesto that you can work on. But I think even before I get there, I think the first thing is you're not alone. And I wish... I think looking back, I have two half sisters who are in their late 30s. One is in her late 30s. One is in her early 40s. And I think I'm their crash test dummy in a lot of ways. So they read my stuff and they're like, oh, thanks for the warning. Like, I now know. So it's, I wish I would have had that message earlier, when things started to feel a little bit different for me, whether it was hormonally or my physical appearance or my satisfaction at work or, what I felt I needed in my relationships. I wish I would have paid attention to those signs early on. I wish I would have noticed how often I apologized and asked for permission to just live my own life. I wish I would have noticed those things. So I think you're not alone is a critical one. B, you're not crazy. And this is not in your head. You're not imagining it. And I think C, start to notice. Nothing I write about is like advocating this massive life overhaul, but start to notice what's happening. If you start to find yourself saying yes to things that you really want to say no to, just take a pause and notice that. Or if you're saying no to something and you're following up with this long dissertation about why you're saying no, ask yourself, why are you doing that? I'm not available. That's 3 words. No, that's a full sentence. No is a full sentence.
It's a full sentence.
If you start to see that you're getting more annoyed and you're wondering why, I think one of the things that when you enter your 50s for a lot of us is the noise around us kind of starts to quiet down a little bit, right? Maybe the kids, you've got some kids in the house, some kids out of the house. You find yourself having a tiny bit more free time maybe. And that's just space where you can just observe what's happening. And I think that those are really powerful things that don't require a big master plan. They don't require a lot of effort. They don't require huge amounts of life overhaul changes. They're just small things to do in the moment. And one of the other practices I started doing, which I think is a really interesting one, is, I spend a lot of time in this office. I consult part-time and I still write. But there are times where I feel like I'm tired and I need a break. And I can think it all day long and then not do anything. But the minute I stop and I say out loud to myself, I need a break, it changes my thought pattern. And that forces me to go, ooh, I need to stop. And I'll get up and walk to the kitchen. But it's not until I say the thing out loud. So I don't say it to anybody. I don't say it because I'm waiting for permission. I want to change the thought pattern. So I found myself lately just saying what I need out loud to myself. I need a break. I need more coffee. I need to get outside. I need to not carry this negative feeling about something that just happened. I need to scream. I need to cry. Like whatever it is, I say it out loud to myself, nobody around me, because it changes my thought pattern. And if I can change my thought pattern, chances are my action is going to change.
Yes. And I feel like you're also honoring your body. You're listening to what your body needs.
Yeah.
And you're leading with that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about your human design in a second, but I was going to ask you though, again, you went through a lot of changes. You made a lot of decisions in your 40s. Mm-hmm. Do you have any regrets now that you're on the other side of all of that change? Any regrets?
No, I don't.
No.
And here's why. Maybe one regret, but generally no. And the reason that I don't is I think I had to go through those experiences to come to the place I am now. You talk about, sort of this idea of being selfish, like bringing selfish back. I wrote about this when I started the book, and it's this idea of like self-possession. Like it is okay to possess your own self. It is okay to possess the things, and we've got to take those things back, right? Yes. And so I believe that every experience that I had, I needed to experience to get to where I am. So I don't have a lot of regrets. There is one thing though, when I think about, a lot of take work, for example, I'll say this as another red thread that I noticed through the book with the women that I spoke to for Real Girls Guide is, take your career. You can kind of pick any sort of vertical slice of our life or horizontal slice of our life. But at work, I let a lot of stories that people wrote about me dictate the jobs that I put myself forward for, the positions that I felt I not only earned, but I deserved. And I let those stories sort of live in my head. And I do wish that I would have challenged those stories, which were patently false, I'll have you know. And how did I discover that? I discovered that when I retired. So stories like, oh, you're an execution machine. You get things done. Oh, you're not strategic enough. Oh, you're not visible to the right executives. I had an answer to every one of those things. But I let those stories live in my head. And the minute I retired and I began consulting and I began advising and I was sitting with CEOs and CFOs and, C-level executives, and they're asking me for my advice and my counsel on topics that I actually didn't even have direct experience in. Turns out I knew a lot of stuff. And turns out I always did. So I wish I would have not let those stories dictate, and I wish I would have changed the question. So instead of like, who am I to think I could do this? Or, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I wish I would have asked, I wish I would have changed the question to, why not me? Why not this thing? Yes. Why not now? That's what I wish. So it's not a regret per se, but I do wish I would have paid more attention to that stuff.
So powerful. And I know that people are listening, are soaking this in, because I think we probably all have those stories of telling ourselves a story, someone giving us a story, and we accept it, we own it, we say yes, and and the fact that when you retired, again, you got a little space, you were able to test some of that and realize it's not even true.
None of it was true. None of it was true.
Why not me? What a powerful, powerful question.
Yeah, why not? And that's, if I'm honest with you, that's even kind of how I approach this book thing, right? So Had the folder. I started this book idea at 35. The folder literally gets buried on my desk. When I retired, I looked at this pile. I looked through the pile. I was like, look at this red folder. I opened it and I was like, that's the book. So I spent 2 months. So I'm not perfect, right? I still go through these same thoughts. But what I find is I can short circuit them. So I gave myself a couple months after my retirement and finding this folder to talk myself out of writing the book. And I couldn't do it because all the questions were not like, who am I to think? And, nobody's going to buy this book. And, this is crazy. It was, the question became, why not? Why not write this book? Why not now? Why not the way I envisioned it 20 years ago? Why not? And so that was the new question. So even the drums, right? Who am I to think I can learn the drums at 55? And that's crazy. And why not?
So one of my favorite country songs is by the Judds, Why Not Me? And it just, she's talking about a man, why not me, in terms of a man choosing me, but I like it much more, and just, why not me? That is so powerful.
Yeah, why not?
And I love that, yeah. And I noticed that your regrets had nothing to do with all those changes you made, none of those life changes. And I wanted to pull on that a little bit, because I think as women are listening to this and they might be thinking about making some big changes in their life, you wonder, am I going to regret this? Is this going to be, you made major changes. And like you said, lived experience. It's now, and Angela, if you had not done this, if you had not written this book, if you had not chose you to write that, think about all the women's lives you're impacting who are going through this, that are reading this and they're like, yes, thank you. Oh my gosh, I needed this. So
You're going to make me cry. Yeah.
Oh, no.
No, it's true. And I think, a lot of these things feel so overwhelming and they feel so destabilizing. And, I can honestly say that, and there were hard days. Like I remember for the first 6 months after my divorce, when my children were with my ex, I would come home from work and I would try to delay my entry back home from work as late as I could, because I would want to get home and go right upstairs to my bedroom. I couldn't be in the kitchen and the family room. It was like one of those, like, it wasn't big, but a small great room. I couldn't spend time in that space because it wasn't a family room, right? My kids weren't there. And so for the first 6 months, it was tough. Like I would literally do anything I could after work to just make it so all I had to do was come home and go right upstairs. Or, the first Christmas, right? When the kids are not waking up with me on Christmas morning. And those, I think that, there are hard days for sure. And you live through them. And there's another side. And change, it's okay to grieve, right? Like we don't grieve just people. We grieve identities. We grieve the stories that maybe we wrote for ourselves and the life that we imagine. And you can be sad about it. I grieve that stuff, right? And the only way I could move to acceptance was feeling the feeling and then allowing myself to transition to something new and something different. So change didn't become a bad word. And I had to break this belief that, somehow change was wrong and it meant that I failed, or it meant that I was weak, or it meant, it was something scary. Change was actually beautiful. And I had to go through the stages and I had to get to a place of acceptance. But good comes from the change.
Yes.
And sometimes, different is just different.
Yes. And different is good. Who wants to wake up in Groundhog's Day doing the same thing? God. We're expansive. We don't want to just stay. We may think we want to stay in our comfort zone, but
we do not. We do not. No, we do
Life's
not.
on the other side.
Absolutely.
So see if this resonates with you. And it's okay if it doesn't.
Okay.
But you are a manifesting generator, which we talked about a little bit, which means that we have this, I'm a generator, not a manifesting generator, but a generator. We have this life force energy. We have like these batteries that where we can just go, 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 go. If we're doing something we love, that is the key. If you're doing something you love, you can just kind of keep going, you have all this energy for it. But if you're not, it just drains that battery. But as a manifesting generator, as we talked about earlier, you can pivot and pivot often, which we talked about a little bit. It's also a lot of multitasking, doing things all at once and doing it well. So all of that is that's just a little snippet. But you have sacral authority, which we talked about a little bit. Sacral authority is where your gut is your truth. Your gut, if you can quiet yourself and trust yourself, your gut knows. And there's so many times in the story where you mentioned felt I need to rest. And yes, you verbalized and said it out loud, but that's truly you kind of listening to what you need. So in the moment, your gut, if you can tune into that, it knows, and it's going to give you, kind of what you need. And then the last thing was your profile is a 2-4. So the 2-4 is a beautiful balance between needing time alone, solitude, and needing relationships and connections. So with the 2, it's called either the hermit or natural, because line 2s have this natural talent that is just so natural to them that a lot of times they don't even recognize it as a talent, because it's like, oh, I just do this, effortlessly. And sometimes they need others to kind of tap them on their shoulders saying, like, you're really good at that, for them to even recognize, oh, this thing that I do. And solitude is a non-negotiable. Like, it doesn't mean that you always want to be by yourself, but it's like when you need your solitude, Angela, that is when you get to hone your skill, maybe your writing skills, but it should be a non-negotiable. And you should tell your family, this is not a personal thing. This is just what I need. And you will reemerge, just like the hermit crab. You will reemerge, but you need that. Now, the 4, I'm also a line 4, but I'm a 4-6, and the way it goes kind of matters whether the 4 is first. But anyway, your line 4, that's all about connections and relationships. They are going to be key in your world. That's where your opportunities are going to come from. It doesn't mean that you're like a networker, like you're working the room. It just means that your network is so key. So as a 2-4, you've got this balance between needing that solitude and honoring that, and then needing your people and needing your and finding that balance. So I'll just pause there. Does any of that kind of resonate with you?
Yeah, like all of it does. I think that you're right. A couple of things that I wrote down. I think, for a lot of my life, I fought the strength of my intuition. Okay. I fought it. Or I would try to rationalize, or I was afraid of what it was telling me. And yet, looking back on the times where maybe I was the most skeptical of what my gut was telling me, my gut never lied. Never lied. So it's wonderful to be at this place in my mid-50s where I listen to it, and I trust it. And so that absolutely resonates. I think, what you said about, I love this stuff in like love languages, right? So my top love language is words of affirmation, and I do think that there is a level of, affirming and acknowledging things that I may come naturally to me, but I don't see that. And until somebody says like, oh my gosh, that's really good. Or did you know that, you're really good at that? It's like, no, I just do it. Like I didn't even. So there's something to that I have a lot of connection to. And I think you're absolutely right. I think one of my superpowers is my ability to connect and build relationships and nurture those. And I take a lot of pride in that. And the solitude, like I probably in my 30s and 40s did not realize how much my body and my soul and my energy needs that solitude. Yeah. Because I think I was afraid. And in some way, I think I was afraid of being alone. And somehow I equated solitude not as a positive to re-nourish myself and re-energize and focus on me. I saw it as, oh, then I'm alone and creating this distance from the things and the people that I want so close to me. So I there were periods of time where that idea scared me. It does not anymore.
Yes.
It does not.
I think that's the other beauty of midlife is you start to, like you said, you don't apologize, you own it. But a lot of that is just conditioning. Society tells us it's better to be around people and to rarely just sit with yourself in the silence and just be, So that is the point of human design. It's just letting you know what your energy is so that you move with it. You embrace it. You don't fight it. You don't make it wrong.
Yeah.
But, okay. I know I only have you for so long, so I just want to keep it moving. I could talk about human design forever. But
well, I could too now.
It's so good. But before we head into my speed round, I wanted to share a love note with you from a previous guest. So it's something I've started, just paying a little love forward. And this one comes from Susan Bratton. She's an intimacy expert. She's a best-selling author, and she's an advocate for helping people create deeper connection and pleasure in their lives. And for those of you who haven't listened to her episode, definitely check it out. It's a great one. But Susan's note for you is this. One of the most important things I've learned about love is that we often think we need more of it. But the truth is that we tend to feel love most deeply when we're giving it. The more love we give, the more love we experience. So what comes up for you when you hear that, Angela?
First of all, I'm fighting the tears, so there's that. I think what comes up for me is just my kids, I think that these three humans are my absolute heart and soul, embodied outside my body. And I do feel so full and lucky and happy and content and grateful for these three humans. And I do. That's what comes up for me. It's my boys. Yeah, my boys.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Well, before we head into our speed round, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you would like to share with our friends today?
No, we covered everything. And I think, this writing and self-publishing a book in your mid-50s is a scary endeavor in and of itself, and a whole lot of what the heck am I doing now moments. But what I will say is, if you have an idea and it seems harebrained and crazy and, people are going to look at you and go, you're off your rocker. This is nuts. But it's something you want to do. I would just say do it. And I let this little story be an example of something that, just might work out. And why not?
It's beautiful.
Why not?
Why not? Why not me?
Why not me?
What makes you come alive?
I think being around my kids, being around my Australian man, being around my family. I love it. I love being around my family. And the other thing is weekly family dinners. I have weekly family dinners, and I love them. Love them.
What's a song that instantly shifts your energy or just makes you feel something?
Upside Down by Diana Ross. Every time.
Oh.
Every time.
Love it. What's a book that just cracked you open or stayed with you long after you read the last page?
It is a cross between The Outsiders. I love that book. I don't know why. It is just something about that book. And To Kill a Mockingbird. Those are my two absolute, hands down, favorite books.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you referring to The Outsiders that they made a movie out of with Mr. Matt Dillon? And
yes, I am, ma'am. Ralph Macchio.
Angela,
yes, I am, ma'am.
I love that movie so much. I lost my little mind. I remember not calling in sick, but telling my parents that I was sick.
Sick?
So I could stay home to watch The Outsiders. I loved. Okay, who was your favorite? Yeah. Who was your favorite?
I'm a pony boy. I'm sorry. I'm pony boy. Okay. Yes. I don't know what it is. Yes.
It was Matt Dillon for me. Dally.
Was it?
I just, the bad boy.
Okay. I know. Yeah.
What is your favorite little indulgence or guilty pleasure?
Natural Bliss sweet cream in my coffee every morning. And I'm going to say this. The other little guilty pleasure, which I don't think is guilty, I love having my first cup of coffee in bed. And for all the years I worked for 30 years, I somehow told myself that I could only do that on the weekends. And that how crazy was I to think that I could have my first cup of coffee in bed? Who needed me at 6:17 in the morning? The answer to that is nobody. So now I have my first cup of coffee in bed, and I love it. And I do not apologize for it. With my sweet cream that probably has some chemicals in it, but I don't care.
All right. But you know what, Angela, that's a great example of you could have been doing that forever. You could have been
this is the thing, honestly.
Why do we do that? Why weekends and vacations?
I don't know. And when I have coffee in bed, it sets the tone for my day. It is my most favorite time. Okay. How I managed to convince myself that I was not worth 22 minutes. I realized the minimum amount of time that I can spend is 22 minutes. My optimal time is 37 minutes. This is now a science to me. What on earth, unless one of my kids was like bleeding out and I needed to get him to the ER, nothing needed me. Nothing was as important as that couldn't wait 22 minutes. Why? Right. Why did I do that? And I'm so upset. So upset. There's a regret for you. Yeah.
If you are listening to this, have coffee in bed.
If that's your thing, do it every day.
Do it every day. Do all, because I have found that I don't know if I would have had to make that leap if I had done little things like that throughout my career. But instead I made it this, I can only do, and I can, do the little things every day in your life.
Please. And don't tell yourself that you can't. That's ridiculous. 22 minutes. Have coffee in bed every day.
Again, that rule book, got to throw it out. Okay.
Throw it away.
What is one thing that always reminds you how beautiful life really is?
Oh, that's a good one. I think talking to my mom, as I talk to my mom multiple times in a day, I think that is a constant reminder. And the sunshine, like standing outside and just feeling the sun on my person. And on the days that feel really heavy for me, or I'm overwhelmed or sad, whatever, if it's a sunny day, I just go stand outside, and the sun hitting my body just makes me feel, reminds me that everything's good and life is great, and this too shall pass.
Yes. Both of those things are free.
Yeah.
The sun is such a gift. I have to fight with my carpenter bees to sit on my sunny bench because they're, it's my favorite thing.
Battling.
But the mom piece is such a gift.
Yeah.
Anyone who still has their mom, it is just, it's my favorite part of just spending, talking, hearing, seeing her, anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And hearing her voice. I love hearing her voice.
Yes.
Yeah. I love hearing her voice when we talk. We talk every day. So, yeah.
So, Angela, how can people connect with you and learn more about your world?
Yes. Well, you can buy my book wherever you love to buy your books, Real Girl's Guide to Midlife. I write for Substack. So join my Substack. All you have to do is put in an email, and it's no cost. realgirlsguidetomidlife.com. You can find me on Instagram, realgirlsguide55. I'm still very, very new to social and very, very awkward, but I'm embracing it. And I also have a website, realgirlsguide.com.
Perfect. And as always, we'll include all of those in the show link. And as we mentioned earlier, you are graciously going to give 3 lucky listeners a copy of your book. That is amazing. So for everyone who's listening, we're going to keep this very simple. To enter, just make sure you're subscribed to my Thought Gems weekly newsletter. All you have to do is go to abeautifulfix.com, scroll down to the very bottom, and you can just enter your email. That will enter you. If you're already part of my community, you're automatically eligible. And then next week, I'll give everyone kind of a week to listen to this. I'll send out a simple email that just talks about the giveaway. You just have to reply. Tell us one thing that you loved about this episode, and you will be entered, and we'll pick someone.
Yay!
Thank you. That is amazing. So, Angela, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story with us today. I'm sure so many women, it's going to help them just hearing your story. And, for those of you listening, have your cream and your coffee in the morning. Just do it. And until next time, keep getting high on life, one beautiful fix at a time. Thank you, Angela. Thanks for listening to A Beautiful Fix. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a quick review to help others find us. And if you'd like to share your own beautiful fix or join me as a guest, reach out anytime at Tracy@abeautifulfix.com. Looking forward to next time.